Let me continue to read this story with the Beatles by Haruki Murakami. This is the fourth part. I noted silently he might be right. I pretty much stopped going to school because of all that, my girlfriend's brother went on. The more I thought about it, the more frightened I got, and I couldn't bring myself to go to school. My mom explained the situation to my teacher, and even though I had way too many absences, they made an exception for me and let me graduate. I imagined the school wanted to get rid of a problem student like me as soon as it could, but I didn't go on to college. My grades weren't so bad, and I could have gotten into some kind of a college, but I didn't have the confidence to go out. Ever since then, I've been loafing around at home. I take the dog for a walk, but otherwise I hardly ever leave the house. These days I don't feel as panicky or whatever. If things calm down a little more, I think maybe I will start going to college. He was silent then, and so was I. I had no idea what to say. I understood now why my girlfriend never wanted to talk about her brother. Thank you for reading that story to me, he said. Spinning Gears is pretty good. A dark story, for sure. But some of the writing really got to me. You sure you don't want any coffee? It will just take a minute. No, I'm fine, really. I would be better be going soon. He glanced again at the clock on the wall. Why don't you wait till 12:30? And if nobody is back by then, you can leave. I'll be in my room upstairs so you can see yourself out. No need to worry about me. I nodded. Isn't it interesting going out with Sayoko? My girlfriend's brother asked me one more time. I nodded. It's interesting. What part? How there's so much about her I don't know, I replied. A very honest answer, I think. He said, mulling it over. Now that you mention it, I can see that. She's my kid sister, blood related, the same genes and all, and we have been living together under the same roof since she was born. But there are still tons of things I don't understand about her. I don't get her. How should I put it? What makes her tick? So I would like it if you could understand those things for me. Though there may be things it's best not to try to figure out. Coffee cup in hand, he rose from the armchair. Anyway, give it your best shot, my girlfriend's brother said. He fluttered his free hand at me and left the room. Thanks, I said. At 12:30, there was still no sign of anyone returning, so I went along to the front door, slipped on my sneakers, and left. I walked past the pine forest to the station, jumped on the train, and went home. It was utterly still and quite sunny autumn afternoon. I got a call from my girlfriend after 2 p.m. You were supposed to come next Sunday, she said. I wasn't totally convinced, but she was so clear about it that she was probably right. I must have messed up the days. I meekly apologized for going to her place a whole week early. I didn't mention that while I was waiting for her to come home, her brother and I had a conversation. Maybe conversation wasn't the right word, since I basically just listened to him. I figured it was probably best not to say that I would read Runosuke Akutagawa's Spinning Gears to him, and that he had revealed to me that he had an illness with memory lapses. I had a kind of a lunch too, that he hadn't told my girlfriend anything about it, and if he hadn't, there wasn't any reason for me to. 18 years later, I met her brother again. It was the middle of October. I was 35 then, living in Tokyo with my wife. After I graduated from college in Tokyo, I settled there. My work kept me busy, and I hardly ever went back to Kobe. It was late afternoon, and I was walking up a hill in Shibuya to pick up a watch that was being repaired. I was heading along, lost in thought, when a man I had passed turned and called out to me. "Excuse me," he said. He had an unmistakable Kansai intonation. I stopped, turned around, and saw a man I didn't recognize. He looked a little older than me and a tad taller. He had on a thick gray tweed jacket, a crew-neck, cream-colored cashmere sweater, and brown chinos. His hair was short, and he had the taut build of an athlete and a deep tan, a golf tan it looked like. His features were unrefined, yet still attractive. Handsome, I suppose. I got the sense that this was a man who was pleased with his life, a well-bred person, was my guess. "I don't recall your name, but weren't you my younger sister's boyfriend for a while?" he said. I studied his face again, but I had no memory of it. "Your younger sister?" "Soyoko," he said. "I think you guys were in the same class in high school." My eyes come to rest on a small tomato sauce stain on the front of his cream-colored sweater. It was neatly dressed, and that one tiny stain struck me as out of place. And then it hit me. The 21-year-old brother, with sleepy eyes and a loose-necked navy blue sweater, sprinkled with bread crumbs. Old habits die hard. Those kinds of inclinations or habits don't seem to ever change. "I remember now," I said. "You are Soyoko's older brother. We met one time at your home, didn't we?" "Right you are. You read Akutagawa's Spinning Gears to me." I laughed. "But I'm surprised you could pick me out in this crowd. We only met once, and it was so long ago." "I'm not sure why, but I never forget a face. Plus, you don't seem to have changed at all." "But you have changed quite a lot," I said. "You look so different now." "Well, a lot of water under the bridge," he said, smiling. "As you know, things were pretty complicated for me for a while." "How is Soyoko doing?" I asked. He cast a troubled look on one side, breathed in slowly, then exhaled, as if measuring the density of the air around him. "Instead of standing here in the street, why don't we go somewhere where we can sit down and talk, if you're not busy, that is," he said. "I have nothing pressing," I told him. "Soyoko passed away," he said quietly. We were in a nearby coffee shop, seated across a plastic table from each other. "Passed away? She died 3 years ago." I was speechless. I felt as if my tongue were swelling up inside my mouth. I tried to swallow the saliva that had built up, but I couldn't. The last time I had seen Soyoko, she was 20 and had just gotten her driver's license, and she drove the two of us to the top of Mount Roko in Kobe, in a white Toyota Crown hardtop that belonged to her father. Her driving was still a bit awkward, but she looked elated as she drove. Predictably, the radio was playing a Beatles song. I remember it well. "Hello, goodbye." You say goodbye, and I say hello. As I said before, their music was everywhere then, surrounding us like a wallpaper. I couldn't grasp the fact that She had died and no longer existed in this world. I'm not sure how to put it. It seemed so surreal. How did she die? I asked, my mouth dry. She committed suicide, he said, as if carefully picking his words. When she was 26, she married a colleague at the insurance company she worked at, then had 2 children, then took her life. She was just 32. She left behind the children. My former girlfriend's brother nodded. The older one is a boy, the younger is a girl. Her husbands are taking care of them. I visit them every once in a while. Great kids. I still had trouble following the reality of it all. My former girlfriend had killed herself, leaving behind 2 small children. Why did she do it? He shook his head. Nobody knows why. She didn't act like she was troubled or depressed. Her health was good. Things seemed good between her and her husband, and she loved her kids, and she didn't leave behind a note or anything. Her doctor had prescribed sleeping pills, and she sieved them up and took them all at once. So it does seem as though she was planning to kill herself. She wanted to die, and for 6 months she stashed away the medicine bit by bit. It wasn't just a sudden impulse. I was silent for quite a while, and so was he. Each of us lost in our own thoughts. Let me stop here.